Thank you for coming today. This is the Fluke calibration webinar shopping for a multi-product electrical calibrator. What to know? This is part of our big seminar series. This is the third seminar that we've done for this series. And really the intent is to go back to basics and metrology and calibration in general. There's a company who serves all different market segments for calibration, all the way up from the NIs and NASA type level laboratories, all the way down to the industrial tools. We sometimes get fixated on the fact that what they're doing really advanced metrology, and so what I wanted to do with this series was go back to, what is calibration, what is the fundamental information someone who may be entering this market or is interested in entering this market as far as buying a calibrator needs to know. So we've done 3 seminars so far, and we've recorded them also. After this webinar, I'll send you links if you'd like to view the other ones. Talking live from Fluke Calibration, Everett, Washington. As you can imagine, it's pretty rainy this season, and so glad to have you here with us virtually. My name is Rich McFadden. I am the electrical calibration product manager, so basically handling DCLF calibrators such as the 5500 type products, the 5700 type products. I'm also responsible for the power products and safety calibrators. We will be joined shortly by Marty Kidd. He had a delay in getting in this morning, so he'll be joining us shortly. Okay, a couple notes on this webinar. Unfortunately, it is voice over IP only, and that's just to be considerate because of background noises and things that occur sometimes when you do enable the microphone. So if you have any questions, please type them into this chat window that we have here or the question and answer window. As I go along, I will be stopping to take questions. This is meant to be more of an interactive seminar than it is just me up here lecturing. So please feel free to interrupt me, and if I see a question pop up while I'm on a slide that's pertinent to the information, I'll go ahead and address that question. But the goal is to get everybody's questions answered by the end of the seminar. So today we're going to be covering, first, what is a multi-product calibrator? Sometimes people get confused between the names of these products, so multi-product versus multi-function. We'll go through that a little bit. This point I'd like to discuss is why all multi-product calibrators not. When looking for a multi-product calibrator, you will basically have about 6 options in the market today, and depending on which direction or what your needs are that you need to fill, it can be quite challenging not only to understand the specifications, but also what features and value add it brings to your organization. As in the title of the webinar, that this is a big investment for any business. Multi-product calibration range from the price of anywhere from $25,000 all the way up to about $60,000, depending on the options. So it's a big decision, and so I want to help you guys understand some things to look at. And so we're going to cover 7 most important considerations to evaluate when you're looking at these products or comparing these products. The first thing is, what is a multi-product calibrator? A multi-product calibrator was done by the design of industrial tools. As the industrial tool market, such as DMMs and clamp meters, have evolved, they basically started out as, back in the day, as voltmeters, resistance meters, current meters, and as technology evolved, they became one product. And so it drove the demand for a calibration product that would allow you to calibrate not only one function of the product, but all the functions of the product. And so if you go out to the website today and type in DMM, it's very rare that you would find a product that just measures volts itself, unless you're looking for a low-quality tester. You're going to find probably many products, even low-priced products, that have volts, AC/DC volts, AC/DC current, resistance, and then sometimes you even get temperature, continuity, and so this is what drove the need for a multi-calibrator. Sometimes, the product can be like other options, such as scope options, power quality options, and the reason for this is because these multi-product calibrators realize that if you're going to buy a product that has that many functions to calibrate DMMs, them other related products that have some of the same functionality but a different twist to them, such as energy meters or power quality analyzers, that if you could just expand the functionality a bit, you could add tremendous value to your laboratory. And so typically what you'll find with multi-product calibrators is that they have additional options that you can equip the product with. Typically they use automation software to reduce the time to calibrate, and we'll discuss this a little bit more. But basically, you have many options today on the market for calibrate software. Fluke offers MetCal, MetTeam, and basically it allows you to load a procedure for product, like a handheld, for instance, and it'll run through the calibration sequence, just giving you guidance on, change range now or such. But it really does speed up the calibration process. So if you're doing high volumes, it really does make sense to have functionality along with your multi-product calibrator. The screenshot is from a workload matrix that is out on our webpage that shows the different the different types of workload each one of our products handle, and you can view that, and we'll go through that a little bit here today. I'm not meaning this presentation to be a sales pitch at all, but I think using our products as an example, it gives us a baseline of the different types of calibrators that are out there on the market. Our Fluke C80 there on the left is a multi-product calibrator, but it was designed for meters. Basically, it has a very high compliance voltage, and we'll talk a little bit about that more, but basically it drives analog meters it has more capability than the typical multi-product calibrator on the market today. And then we have our Fluke 5502 and Fluke 5522, which is a multi-product calibrator, and it has different accuracies for those two products, but going back to what I mentioned before, it does have a plethora of options and we market in terms of reliability, transportability, and things like that. So we're going to talk about a couple of those options that you'd want to compare our to if you're evaluating other products. For those who are new in calibration, the question always comes up, why calibrate? We do have an app note on this, and it's very informative, but it really takes your quality system back to 17025 requirements, and it just makes sure that not only your products but your customers' products are meeting specifications. And when we talk about the traceability chain, it's very important, because if somewhere in the traceability chain there was an error, say a handheld was out of tolerance and it was using a process where it was calibrating sensors, and that was out of calibration, then you could see how there could be effects of needing to recall equipment and such. So calibration is very important. For this webinar, if you have any questions on why calibration is important, I'd love to talk to you more about that. So let's dive right in. All product calibrators are not the same. When you're looking at these, based on the feedback that I just got in the chat window, it looks like there are many customers out there, or many people here that are customers now. There are also new ones. So this is a process. When what workload you have, it's hard to determine what you actually need. There are a lot of specifications. When you look at those specifications, if you're not a metrologist, it can be very daunting to try to say, well, is it going to cover my workload or not? There's current drive capabilities, ease of use, what size, maybe I want it for a portable application. Price is sometimes hard to justify if you've got low volumes versus high volumes. So these are all things that go through my mind when I'm thinking about that, and I've heard. But the first consideration I'll present to you is your work should drive the purchase requirements. As I mentioned earlier, multi-calibrators usually offer AC/DC current, voltage, and resistance. Some market, like I mentioned, offer more as part of the base product, such as temperature. But it really, when you look at what you're calibrating today or what you want to be calibrating, you're down with the list. And typically the products will have some sort of service manual or calibration manual associated with it. And hopefully inside that manual, they've given some recommendations on what type of products you can use that would have good enough accuracy to give you at least 3-to-1 total certainty ratio or 4-to-1. But this is the starting point. And find is if you have a good list of requirements, the shopping process is very easy because now you can talk to the representatives of whatever company you're talking to about those requirements. Vicious banner specs, and don't ignore floor specifications. This is probably one of the most important considerations I can share with you today. When a manufacturer, and I can speak for this because this is my job here. When a manufacturer does the specifications for a product, it's natural for them to want to put the best spec and advertise that best spec on literature, advertisements, and such. It's because we want to put our best foot forward. Now, in some cases, the forward doesn't really represent the total or the capability of the product in reality. And I'm not going to bash any of our competitors here because they sell great products. But this is an example here on our sheet. What we show is a specification where the manufacturer claims to have 8 ppm as their banner spec. But when we look at that 8 ppm spec, what we'll see is that it's only for one range. And if you really look at the range from 220 millivolts up to 1,023 volts, it's really an average of 14 parts per million accuracy. And in some cases, it has a pretty aggressive floor spec. So the takeaway here is, when evaluating a product, look at its entire spec range. Don't go off banner specs. Next slide here will kind of show you visually why that's important. What you'll see is this is what I call a Goldwing chart, and this is for the DC voltage ranges on about 6 products that I've evaluated in the market, including ours. And what you'll see is the one indication is on the left axis. The input voltage are on the bottom axis, and you can see where the range switches. So between the ranges for each of the products, but you'll see quite a bit of difference between the specification that's listed and also it travels through the next range. And what you would want to see is kind of like the Fluke 5522, where it's a little less aggressive, because think about calibration in general. If you're a calibration lab and you're getting products in to calibrate, you don't know what you're going to get in. And so many different manufacturers have calibration procedures. There's the Euromet guide that talks about the different points that you calibrate DMMs and such on. But the reality is that you want to have a good linear progression of ppm through the entire function. And that way you can you cover all of the requirements, the accuracy requirements of the DMM with basically. Any questions as I'm moving along here? I haven't seen any yet. If you do have. As I mentioned, what would that mean? Be so complicated. Sometimes what that means is that you might not have the accuracy to get 4-to-1 TUR or 3-to-1 TUR on some of the workload that you're trying to cover. This was just an example of one of those products on the market. We evaluated it, and what we was if I was a customer and I wanted to calibrate some of these products, it would be very close to the limits, and sometimes not within the limits of a 4-to-1 TUR quality systems dictate. Are new to specifications and understanding them. We have a webinar coming up next. Actually, is part of the Back to Basics seminar. But after evaluating these specifications, they're basically formatted the same across calibrators, and the MX portion is your gain portion, usually expressed in either a percent of ppm or input. So make sure that you, as you're evaluating it, make sure that you know which one it is. And then you have your floor spec, which is expressed in one of several ways. Either it's a percent of ppm of range, ppm in full scale, count digits, or units. So this is basically the adder, which once you put that all together will give you your specification. So this is an example of a 3.5-digit DMM spec, and like I may go through this in the next webinar in detail, but if you were trying to determine the accuracy of the 10 volts on a Model 175 DMM, you would first look at the range, 60 volts you're on, the resolution, and then the spec. So we talked about the gain and the floor. So if you put those together, you basically get a 0.035 volt error allowance. And if you put that back into your 10 volts, it will tell you that you have an upper limit of 10.04 or 9.96, depending on your rounding practices. But I just wanted to bring that up in case you weren't familiar with specifications and looking at these multi-product calibrators to give you an idea of how to interpret those specifications. And join us next month if you would like to learn more. Okay, up to this point. Is TERT in full? I think it stands for Total Uncertainty Ratio. Okay, perfect. Consideration number 3. Calibrator accuracy increases, so will the price. When you're the calibrators on the market, you're going to find quite a difference in prices. I'll speak to our products because that's what I'm most familiar with. 5502, for example, is lower price point product because it has about 50 parts per million accuracy versus 14 parts per million for a 5502. And I'm banner specs again. But it gives you an idea of the differences in accuracy. Now, what does that buy you? Confidence, basically. If you're a laboratory, okay, let me back up. If you have a shop that you're responsible for process tools, and you're just looking at getting into calibration because perhaps sending these meters out by volumes to a calibration lab, and say they're maybe $200 per calibrate, which is pretty typical. If you have 100 of these, it might make sense to start looking at what a calibrator could do for you. But going back to my previous statement, it would be, what is the workload? If you've got low-end DMMs, you're not going to need that high-end calibrator that costs you $50,000. You may be able to get away with a mid-price point calibrator. It's just as good. It just has different accuracy. If you're a calibration laboratory, what you're going to get in the door, you want maximum capability. That's when you want to start looking at the higher accuracy products, because then no matter what you get in, you're prepared for. So think of accuracy as a return on investment and complement your plans as far as expansion and money. The point of all this is you want to make a return on your investment, whether it's save money for your organization or generate money as a third-party cal provider. So getting the right product in place is very important. Number 4, pay close attention to the calibrator's AC/DC current output. This is up there in terms of considerations as the accuracy. But it's hard to explain in some cases, but basically, as current increase, no matter what product you use, and we're talking about a multi-product calibrator sourcing current. Longer you output high current, the more it generate, and that's basic physics with this electrical device. But what happens is thermal effects start hindering the measurement uncertainty, and also because sometimes you're driving into a coil, you're going to experience high inductive loads, which the calibrator needs what it calls compliance voltage to be able to drive through that coil but maintain the accuracy stated. And so the juggling effect for manufacturers, this is one of the most difficult parts of the product to design, because it's a balance between sacrificing accuracy or that can output 300 volts. 300 amps and be very heavy and such. So when evaluating these products, you want to make sure of a couple things. That one, it can drive a coil, because most products that you would be using can drive a coil, but also value add if your product can drive a coil, so you can do current clamps if you need to. Products use a function called L-comp, which is inductive compensation. And this basically increases the compliance voltage to drive inductive loads. So in a specification, and like a couple of the calibrators in the market also use something similar, you would want to make sure that you look back in two different ways. So on our spec here, you can see there's a section of the A side where it says L-comp off, and then there's a section called L-comp on. And there's differences between the accuracies. But one of the things that we've done with our products is to evaluate the load, all of the Fluke industrial group clamp meters and such, all the ones typically on the market, to make sure that we've got enough accuracy for those with the L-comp on. So something to consider when you're looking at the current functionality of the process. This is going back to the statement I made about use the high current, the hotter it gets, and the accuracy starts to not be guaranteed. The way that you would read this is basically you have your minutes on the left-hand side, your current on the bottom, so how much you're outputting. And as you can see, base temperature, you're going to be able to ascertain, how many minutes you can run it and maintain the specification listed. It's our way of trying to help out this aspect of the calibration. The problem in the market today, listing only run it less than 1 minute above, I think, 15 amps. And so unless you're automating your procedure, it might be difficult to get a measurement within that period before you run into spec issues. Also, there's typically a cool down period, so this is all cumulative. So if I ran it for 5 minutes at 11 amps, and then I ran it for another 10 minutes without letting it cool down, I'm actually have a cumulative effect where it seems like I've ran it for 15 minutes because it's thermal based. It didn't have a chance to cool down. So the takeaway here is make sure that you read all the footnotes in the specifications around the current specifications to make sure that the product will meet your needs. Fluke offers 3 different types of coils. Work very well with the multi-product calibrators. The one on the left here, it goes out to 1,000 amps, and it does have a time limit with a 20-minute duty cycle, but that should be plenty of time if you're running an automated procedure or even a manual procedure to get your measurement in a stable measurement. And then some higher current coils, because many of you know that a lot of the DMS and industrial tools now are options, like that flex coil you see on the right, where you can expand a DMM to go up to maybe 6,000. And it's important to look at the accessories as well to see what your laboratory is. In depth, but you will get this presentation after. It's just a spreadsheet that shows which one of the coils works with the different products that we offer. The next item here, temperature is a very common need, but very confusing. We probably have questions on the temperature aspects of the multi-product calibrator as a person is going through their buying process. And the being is because there's a lot of variables to it, and typically you're calibrating electrical, you're not very used to, as a new user, to calibrate temperature. And as I said earlier, a lot of the handhelds that we offer today here at Fluke do have some sort of temperature function, whether it's RTD or thermocouple. And so we put this into our multi-product calibrators, and I know a lot of the other ones do well, but the guide here is to make sure that the calibrator has enough accuracy in its temperature function to cover the workload. And it takes a little bit of figuring out, but what you want to make sure as well is to make that the product can at least simulate an RTD and simulate a TC. And so, this is an example RTD handheld in the Fluke 712. So if you were a third-party calibration lab and you do expand into the handhelds, you might start seeing some of these. And if you didn't have this function built into your product, you'd be missing out on opportunities for additional revenue. And an example, a couple like this one here, the Fluke 714B, and you can see it uses a thermocouple input on the front there. And so go back to basically the way it works is this is a lead kit we offer you. You have a thermocouple cable kit, and the kit comes with the different types of couple types. And the most common is K and T, but you would have them all there, and you would basically plug that into the calibrator, and it's either going to simulate or measure based on the need of the product and help you calibrate that product. Consideration 6 is don't overlook portability, robustness, and environmental specifications. This is very important, and it goes back to what's your workload, because many times when you're looking at expanding their lab, they got the fact, well, maybe years I could take it out to the field. We know that portable calibration is becoming more popular. So when you look at portable calibration products on the market, they don't get to the accuracy that many would need to take up the site and calibrate 3.5, 4.5, 5.5 digit DMMs. And what's important to look at, what safety is built into it, how robust is it? Is it got the right accept and transport it? And so at a minimum, you must ensure that the product can with shipment once a year for calibration. When you look at the product design, is it plastic or is it aluminum? Is it how heavy is it? If I drop it, is it going to break? Has it been tested for drop tests? To be thinking about. But mostly over voltage and accidental misuse. This is really important. You're surprised with how many times we're on site with customers and ask them about their product experience and just the day-to-day misconnections that they make. I mean, the product really has to be able to handle all those situations, and if it doesn't, then what you're going to find, you're going to have high warranty costs or repair costs because of misuse, accidental misuse, not inadvertent. And so look at manuals and find out, does it have overload protection? Does it have on all the different functions? So if I accidentally 100 volts into it, is something going to happen? Make sure that you read through that information. the specifications are also very important, and I've included a couple snippets from our specifications here. But basically, you want to get the storage temperature, make sure that it can handle the temperature that it might experience during transport. So if it has to ship from Minot, North Dakota to Everett, it's going to be on the tarmac at minus degrees. Is it going to have that temperature range? And so that's one aspect. Also, the operating temperature is very important. In many labs, it's controlled, but once you start thinking to take it out to an on-site calibration lab that you would set up, that's where that operating temperature becomes very important. And so you make sure that if you took it into a machine shop or you took it in a process lab, that if it was an environmental control, that you still have the ability to produce the results that you would in a controlled lab. Here's another big one. You want to make sure that it has a very wide range of humidity. The way that we're spending our relative humidity here is based on the temperature. And so typically in the south and Florida area, this is going to be more of a problem than it would in, say, Everett, Washington. So make sure that if your conditioner goes out or you don't have air conditioning, that you're a dry mechanism that you have everything you need. Okay, safety. This is one big area you need to continue to evaluate is what certifications does it have? For those familiar with product development and the CE, CSA certifications, even IED, I'll tell you it's not an easy task to get those certifications. And these products are tested and tested. Any product on the market that has those certifications, you can be assured that they went through the ringer as far as getting those certifications. And so to me, if I was buying one, I would make sure that it complied with all of those. Also, EMC. This is into EMC, line power. I combine those sometimes because what you want to make sure is if you have any voltage spikes or your power interrupted or just of nature lightning strike, it's going to be, if the line power is going to be jeopardized, is it going to damage my calibrator? Products out there have a good line power error handling, basically. It's not error handling, it's spikes is what I meant to say. But you wonder that it can handle all of that, or you're going to find yourself in a calibration, you get a spike such, and it ruins the calibrator, especially when you're using high voltage or high current out of it. And the weight, another big factor here. So our products are a bit heavy, and I'm because they're lighter than a lot of the ones out there actually. But when it comes to portability, the heavy aspect of it doesn't make it bad. And the reason I say that is because when you put it on the bench, it doesn't move. When you're putting it in your car, it doesn't really move around. It's really the fact of getting it from point A to point B where the weight is an issue. But many customers out there that are using not only our products but other products in the market to create site calibration laboratories. And the fact that we've gotten was that the weight isn't really an issue. They like that it sits on the bench. It's not going to fall off if I bump it. I put my computer on top of it and it stays there. So it's really your choice. When you're looking at these, evaluate to what needs are and make sure the weight is considered. Okay. And the question that said, how would the consequences of exposure to adverse environmental conditions manifest? Would it be chemical only, or could equipment merely go out of tolerance? That's a great question. I'm going to speak from experience from what I know from, say, emerged. So let's use China as an example. So the power grid is not very stable. There are swells in that power grid. What we've seen in our products, we've developed them pretty good, but occasionally what happens if you have a severe dip, or when you're using high voltage or high current, the product handles it very well, and we've had a couple instances though where it basically took the tolerance, and so ours for the customers to some surge detection, power monitoring, so that they can understand, what types of dips and swells, because we do say what those dips and swells are, and I can tell you what we experienced was way out of that. But to answer your question, it was not catastrophic. It just needed a quick repair and a calibration, and it was back and running. The last item here is software and remote communication is very important. The software is probably the most important aspect of productivity. These multi-product calibrators in general are easy to use from the front panel, but when it depends on your UT and how many points you're calibrating, you could sit there and be button pushing for a while, set ranges and calculating uncertainties, and then taking that data and then producing a calibration certificate. With the power software, now most handled. So, for instance, if you were calibrating a handheld, maybe there's 5 to 10 calibration points, and that seems pretty extreme. But for sake of this example, every point you'd have to set the range, take the measurement, write it down. With the calibration software, basically it runs through a script, and it sets the calibrator at its voltages, current, or whatever function it's performing the count, and it just asks you for the measurement. So you type in the measurement of the UUT, and doing all the calculations for you, and at the end you would get a calibration certificate that tells you, is it pass or fail. And if you're running through, I'd say a high workload would be 20s a day. That's a very high workload for one person, 20 to 30. This could save hundreds of hours a month, literally, by not having to go through all that. And also the confidence that calibration was done correctly without error. Lab Manager is worth it in itself. So when you're evaluating the multi-product calibrator, not only evaluate what they have, but also do they have software? Is there some sort of asset management that I could use that would help me manage the products that I'm receiving or even own? And so we offer what we call MetCal, and there are thousands of features that basically you download and load the software, and it's a procedure that is designed by the based on the manufacturer's specifications. These are highly tested procedures, and all the error calculation, so that measurement, it's going to tell you if it passed or failed. So it simplifies the whole job of calibration tremendously. In addition, if you're interested in doing additional uses, scope or power, there's additional features for that, and that's where it really is off, because those calibrations tend to be a little bit more difficult, and the software really simplifies it. After this webinar, I'll see you along with this recording with some of the information of MetCal, so that, like I mentioned, as you're evaluating multi-product calibrator out there, you have a way to learn about what aspects of calibration software are, and then you can compare it to other companies. Okay, I went through that pretty quickly, but I did want to leave some time for questions. Are there any other questions? Okay, I know the questions coming in, so that's good or bad. Well, I'll stay on here for a few more minutes, but I did want to just mention if you're just getting into calibration, we do have metrology training and classes, not only basic cal, but advanced hands-on metrology. And so you can see those on our website. As and off here, there is a post-webinar survey. I'd love to hear your feedback. And if you like any assistance or if you want more information, please select the question that's at the survey, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. All right. There an upgrade path from 5502 to the 5522? Yes, there is. There definitely is, and we can work with you if you'd like to contact us. Everybody, and I hope you have a great day or night, depending on where you are, and we'll catch you next time.